It's going to be a very, very intense journey.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to episode 157 of Frame Skip. I am Andie Eller, and I am joined today by the coach, Kyle Newman. What's going on, Coach?
Happy Hump Day.
That's right.
Happy
Speaking of humps, Seth.
What the fuck is that supposed to mean?
Seth's Lake House. We're also joined by. What's going on, Seth?
And like a Humpty Dumpty, or I got a lot of humps? What is this?
We'll leave it up to your imagination.
All right, man.
What's up, Seth?
Doing good. I'm doing pretty good.
Okay. Were you offended?
I'm thrown off base. I'm not offended. I'm taken aback. I'm aghast, actually.
I like that. Aghast. Okay. That's a good one. It's a huge vocabulary word for you.
For what? For a huge vocabulary word for what? For a guy like me? Is that what
That's
you're
right.
gonna say?
That's right. That's right.
We got Savage Austin tonight on the podcast.
Yeah. George isn't here, so somebody's got to rail on everybody else.
Yeah.
Normally George is the one that's railing on everybody, and he's not here, so it's somebody else's turn tonight. But what's going on, guys? It's good to be here. We've had a fun week in gaming with the Game Awards, which we're certainly going to get into. But Seth, it's been a while since you've been on, I think, right? I can't remember the last time you were on. Maybe 2 or 3 episodes ago.
We've been recording so infrequently. I was here last Friday though when you were streaming.
That's right. Yeah, Coach and I played some Gears 5, which I want to talk about.
How did you feel about that, Austin? How did you feel about our playthrough?
Yeah, so we can just get into it now. Yeah. What we played, maybe 2 hours, 2.5 hours, something like that. It's hard because I don't want to necessarily give the game a fair opinion necessarily because we were so focused. At least me, I was focused as well. Chatting with Seth and George. But from what we played, I mean, we ran into multiple bugs within the first 2 hours that were required us to restart checkpoints, and that alone was extraordinarily frustrating. So, we were trying to find the upgrade thing for the robot, and it was not appearing. And then I forget what the other bug we had. Oh, it was when I was down. One of the first things that happens is you get knocked down this burning building, and I was stuck. And it was Coach's job to come get me, and it kept glitching out, and it wouldn't let us proceed. So I do want to keep playing it. I want to play more just for the story, but I don't know. I'm not sure it's vibing with me right now because of all the issues it has. Not like 4 did. I mean, 4 immediately hooked me. So
2 was my favorite. 1, we had a blast because that was the first time I was getting this series with you. But it just felt like, what are we doing here? What's going on here? And then you had that 30 minutes where we were learning how to navigate the little secret dugout that we were in, right? And I'm just no, this ain't Gears, man. Gears is just balls to the wall, just hammer aliens' heads off.
Yeah. So we'll see. We need to play some more this holiday season. We need to get through it because I think it's only 10 or 11 hours from what I was reading, so it's not super long. Okay. But I don't know. It has me, frankly, after playing that first couple hours, and again, I don't want to give a full scope of the game because we're not fully into it, but it has me a little worried for their next game. Just because it's not performing properly, and the game's been out for years at this point. So, but yeah, I agree. The level design was kind of rough, and I don't know. We'll see. What the stuff we did at the end, the gunplay, was pretty good.
Right. So, band like Aerosmith, you ask any long-term fan, what is the best? When was their best music? It was in the 70s. Right? 80s were good, but then after the 90s, it was all about radio hits, right?
Right.
That's kind of like what Coalition, right? Or like the Gear series. What were the best games? The early ones, right?
True.
When it was on all about Monster drinks or no Mountain Dew,
Hell yeah.
Dorito chips, and Xbox,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's when it was at its height, and even though we played it many years later, playing it still was like it was awesome. But
yeah,
I
and we still
that. I don't feel that with this.
No, and we still played it. Admittedly, Coach, I can't remember exactly when we played it, but it was probably like what 2018, 2017.
Let's see. I want to say maybe even before that, like
maybe it was 2016,
16, 15, 16.
Yeah, so even then, like it was still close enough to that time frame where I think we were still kind of a little bit in that atmosphere, especially because the one remake had come out not too long before we were playing. But anyway, so yeah, that's a sneak peek into one game Coach and I have played. But Seth, I want to go to you first, since I know it's been a couple weeks or a little while since you've been on for sure. Compared to Coach and I, what have you been up to?
I just been sucking off Mass Effect, dude. I've been having a blast with it. Yep. I haven't played through the Mass Effect games since my original playthroughs, which ended in 2012, and I started going through them again a few years ago, and I beat Mass Effect 1, and then they announced the Legendary Edition was coming out, and I was like, wow, damn. And I just never really got around to it, and I finally decided I was going to play them. I don't really know why. I just got a hunkering for Mass Effect, and I played through the first one, and I don't think the first one holds up very well. I think it's very annoying. I really didn't enjoy playing the first one at all, but that also could have been because I've played through it so much. I've played through the first Mass Effect like probably 4 or 5 times. So it could have been that as well. I did beat Mass Effect 2 like last week, and I loved pretty much every second of the game. I think Mass Effect 2 is a perfect game. I really do. Just the way the characters are written, and it takes the giant scale of Mass Effect 1 and brings it in a little bit. But the world still feels big, and just it's much more dialogue heavy, story heavy game. And I think it's really great. And then I'm about probably halfway through Mass Effect 3 now, and I'm enjoying myself. It's not as good as Mass Effect 2, but this was the one that I haven't touched at all since I played it the first time. And it was such a controversial game, and I remember walking away from Mass Effect 3 feeling very positive about it and really enjoying it, and not even realizing there was controversy surrounding the game until after I beat it. So I thought it'd be more interesting with all a decade plus in between games, and looking back on it after I beat it. So that's where I'm at now. I'm playing as a Paragon, and I'm actually trying to complete like all the side quests and do everything, because I think if I remember correctly back then, I pretty much streamlined the story in Mass Effect 3 and didn't really do any side content. So I forgot Jessica Chobot is a character in this. Did you? What a weird thing. Yeah, what a weird thing that was.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the last thing of note she ever did, too. Like, after Mass Effect 3, she kind of just disappeared.
Yeah.
Really weird.
I don't know what she's doing these days, to be honest with you. I'm pretty sure I still follow her from like 10 years ago, but I don't ever see her post anything. So I don't know.
Probably
It's so
weird. Fans.
She popped up and I was like, oh my God, I forgot that she had a character in Mass Effect. And she's like they like force you to do it, to run into her too.
I guess she kind of paved the way for Alana Pierce in Cyberpunk. Yeah. Because that's like the only other instance I can think of where like somebody that worked at IGN has been in a big game like that. So
what about the other girl, the blonde hair?
Naomi Kyle.
Yeah. Kyle. Did she
I don't think she's been in anything.
No.
I don't know what she does these days either.
She did good when she did her little quick updates. Remember, she would do those updates. I enjoyed those. Those were rather good.
Yeah,
those are good.
So it was Daily Fix, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Seth, did you play the? Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah, everything's really changed
That's a
with them.
big turd.
Did you play the DLC for 2, Seth?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
played all of it?
I played the Shadow Broker, and there's another DLC called I think it's Overlord,
Okay.
and I played through half that, and I was like, this sucks. So then I stopped doing it. But I did the DLC characters, and I did the Shadow Broker, and the Shadow Broker is like a phenomenal DLC. But
Nice.
Overlord is like a very lame, very boring. Like you're going and collecting samples and stuff. It wasn't up my alley. So I let that go.
Yeah, I think I told you the other day, as far as I can remember, I don't think I ever played any of the DLC at all in the entire series. I think I just played vanilla all the way through. So I think there's some pretty good DLC in 3 from what I remember hearing.
Yeah, I never played the DLC for 3 because it does one of my cardinal sins in games, which is they release DLC after the game is completed that takes place halfway through the story. Really
Yeah.
pisses me off when they do that. I cannot stand that because, like, you already know the fates of all these characters. You already know how the story is going to go. And then you beat the game, and then, like, 4 months later, they're like, oh, yeah, we released this new story pack. And I'm supposed to get thrown back into this world that I know, especially in Mass Effect 3, I know doesn't end well. So I'm like, it's kind of hard to care about any of this stuff. So
Is there, I don't want to spoil it for Coach because he's obviously never played the series, but is there a certain ending you're trying to go for? I'm trying to remember what they were and which one I got, but I don't know. The whole ending of 3, like, it never bothered me personally. The original.
It didn't bother me either. Not when I first played it. There was some legitimate complaints. I think that, like, stuff like you didn't get closure with the characters,
Yeah.
and but as far as, like, the actual narrative direction, I really didn't care. It was surprising. I will say that. It was surprising what they did, but I don't know. I'm just gonna go with whatever I think is the Paragon ending. I suppose that's
Yeah. Bullfrog in the
where I'm
chat
going.
said, "Didn't they fix ME3's ending?" Well, they
they added,
added
like, some scenes to it.
yeah, they added some additional, like, director's cut type stuff at the end, which I never even touched. Actually, I don't even know that I ever looked it up because I was so content with how the game ended.
Mhm.
I feel like I'm trying to remember, but I feel like at the time I kind of just didn't do it out of rebellion for, like, these people that were so adamant that the ending was terrible, and I didn't really feel that way, so I just let it
Yeah.
be the way I got it.
You know who reviewed it on IGN?
Colin Moriarty.
Colin.
Nice.
And that was his first claim to fame at IGN because he made that video mocking the people that were throwing a fit over the ending. Now, I know they added, like, a couple extra options with the conduit at the end of the game, and I don't know how they go because I did go back and play the new ending after Mass Effect 3 came out. And I remember being like, wow, okay, so they had just added a few extra scenes. So yeah, I wasn't too impressed with the ending.
Yeah.
But I wasn't impressed as far as, like, the changes they made. I think the overall ending, it is what it is. And that's the way BioWare wanted that series to end.
Right.
And then
They
they
bit
went
the
back
meat.
and milked it with Andromeda. And then they're gonna go back with Mass Effect 4 and try and write themselves out of the corner. And I don't know. I think Mass Effect 4 is gonna be a disaster, dude, because Casey Hudson's not there anymore. So they're like, all right, we need, like, a win. Let's unwrite the ending that the original creators wanted for this series. And I don't know, it just doesn't seem right.
Well,
It'd be like Tolkien's son, like unwriting Lord of the Rings, you know? Like, oh, actually, Frodo decided to come back. Yeah, I don't know.
I think it would have made more sense for them to just do something entirely new with that series instead of, because obviously we know they're bringing back Liara and it's got some continuity with, the original trilogy. But I mean, I don't know if a prequel is necessarily the answer, but I mean, they could have easily gone back to whatever it was 10,000 years prior before the most recent set of Reapers or whatever. I forget the exact storyline, but they could have easily gone back to the prior civilization and found something there, even though we know how it ends.
They
Or
could have
how
done the
about
first
just-
encounter war with the humans and Turians. That would have been a cool story.
Or
Sure.
just leave it alone and just start
Yeah.
something new.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you could do
And
that.
that's this thing with Metroid Prime 4. I don't know how good it's going to be because the same developers aren't there from
No.
20-something years ago. You know, and that's how it is with all of these companies now, like Rocksteady and the first couple Batman games. I'm sure those guys aren't there anymore. Like it's new breed. So what are they bringing to the table? Do they have that same focus? Do they have that same vision as all the others? And it'll be interesting to see how these AAA games that we grew up with throughout the 2000s, how they do in the next few years.
And
I will
then,
Go ahead.
oh, sorry. No, finish your thought, Austin.
No, I was just going to say, I will say to that point, Coach, it's not, I don't disagree with what you're saying, but it's not unheard of for a team to come through and, you know, have totally different set of developers and make a really successful game. I mean, you look at Sly 4 when Sanzaro made that game, it was not Sucker Punch. Totally different, literally a different developer, and the game was excellent. And then the same thing most recently. I mean, these are platformers, these are smaller scale, but Crash 4, when that came out, I haven't played it yet, but I know people spoke very highly of that game and said it really is true to the original. So I hope it's at least in the vein of Prime 4. I hope that they can figure out some way to kind of modernize the series and pay tribute to the original. But yeah, I agree. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm cautiously optimistic because I don't know.
And I don't want to stay too much time on it.
Yeah, for
I just hope they don't have the scanning like they did, because that slows everything down, right? When you scan. I get it. It's not like a first-person shooter. It's more of a first-person adventure, right? But that was like some monotonous shit.
Yeah, and times have changed. People don't really want that anymore. So I think people would much more prefer literally just like a Metroid first-person shooter than such a intense like scanning everything. Like you said, it's a lot. So anyway, I don't want to hold up the conversation too much. Seth, you were going to say something else.
Oh, I was going to say, then after I watched the Game Awards, I started a New Game Plus playthrough of The Witcher 3. Because that got me kind of excited to play through that again, because I've never played through that either. Mass Effect 3 and The Witcher 3 were two games where I put them down and I was like, all right, that was my experience. That was my playthrough. I'm never going to touch them again. And I never wanted to be honest. I played through The Witcher 3 DLC expansions, which I think to this date are the best expansions that's ever been made for video games. And that was the last I touched it, and I decided to reinstall it, and I started New Game Plus, and I'm having a blast with it. The game is just as good as the day it came out, and they put an update for the new generation of consoles, and my God, does that game scale well, because it looks like it could have released yesterday. It looks phenomenal. The game is truly timeless, I think, and then, so me and Caitlin decided we're going to get married on October 5th. We're getting married at the Ren Fair. And so we went there the other day and checked it out. So I was kind of in a Ren Fair mood. And I started rewatching all the Lord of the Rings extended editions. And I was getting hungry for Lord of the Rings, you know? So I started playing Shadow of War again. And I never beat Shadow of War. I barely played it. But I forgot how fun these games were, and I wanted to ask you, Coach, have you ever played these games? Have you ever played Shadow of Mordor?
Is that the one where it came out on PS4?
Mm-hmm.
I did a little bit, but it was just it was different because what was the mechanic with the captains of when you
the
fought a
Nemesis
captain?
system?
Yes.
I was gonna recommend you this game because it's from WB and it plays exactly like the Arkham games. It's got the exact same combat system as the Arkham series, and I didn't realize that until I was playing it today, and I was like, oh wow, this is literally like Arkham Knight, but in Lord of the Rings setting. It's pretty neat. Especially even the way like he crouches and sneaks up and does the sneak kills and stuff like that. They're really good games. They're people don't talk about them much, and I think Shadow of War was kind of unneeded. I don't think it tells a necessarily great story, but the Nemesis system really carries that series, and they're really fun. I think the first one has a pretty good story, but the sequel felt unnecessary and and a little. It seems like it came out of nowhere, but I do think they're both fun games to play, and I really enjoyed the first one, and so far I'm enjoying the second one too.
The first one, dude, I love that game when it came out. I think I have the platinum in it actually, and it was excellent. But I never played the second one. I never touched it because it just kind of came out and like nobody talked about it. It just appeared and went away. So, but I still heard it was good. It just didn't really seem to gain attention, really. So,
did it have microtransactions in it?
They had
I feel like
a couple
I remember
DLC
that.
packs.
Because I think that was like the days before games had a lot of microtransactions. So I remember some negative publicity about it.
I want to say they had like there was a controversy with like XP boosts or something.
Maybe.
But I'm just seeing 6 years ago.
I remember some controversy.
6 years ago, microtransactions have been completely removed from Middle Earth Shadows of War. So yeah.
And then
I think
likewise, Bullfrog in the chat says, didn't they get sued for a bunch of the mechanics being similar to other games? I don't think so. Did they?
I don't think there was a lawsuit. There may have been. I don't remember that, but I do remember a controversy because of like Talion's diving and climbing. It is exactly like Assassin's Creed. It is shockingly similar to it. I remember the Assassin's Creed one of the Assassin's Creed developers was like, I know my own animations when I see them. So, yeah, but I mean, fuck it. It's really good. The game is really fun. No, he's looking at something.
Oh, there he is.
So, the only thing I can quickly find is, which I don't even remember this. Apparently, Warner Brothers entered a settlement with the FTC after they literally did like under the table payments to YouTubers like PewDiePie to promote Shadow of War and did not disclose that they had made those payments, which is obviously against the law. So this was from 2016. But I'm not seeing anything specifically about the mechanics, but I do vaguely remember that. So
yeah. But yeah, Coach, you should give him a shot. See if you're into it. I mean, do you like Lord of the Rings?
Oh yeah. Huge.
I mean, yeah, you have to. It's phenomenal. The best trilogy of all time.
So what's funny is I clearly remember getting Shadow of War like the Ultimate Edition on Xbox like a month after it came out because Walmart.com had this price glitch. And that bundle was supposed to be like $120 because it came with all the DLC and I think some of those microtransaction things. And it was accidentally $5 on Walmart.com like a month after the game came out, and I bought it.
Yeah.
And they didn't take back the code or anything, so I have it still on my Series X, but I never played
Before
it.
the days of Wario 64.
That's right.
So
that's awesome.
I remember during that time, Star Wars and Lord of the Rings made it fun to go to midnight showings.
Yeah.
Like there were ton of people there, and it just was like such a good vibe. It had that Infinite War. Is that what it was? The Marvel Avengers Infinite War?
I don't know what game you're
Infinity War.
about.
Infinity War, yes.
Oh.
So yeah, so that level of excitement, right? To go to these. And for Lord of the Rings, it was back to back to back. So it was awesome. Like,
dude, watching those movies again, it is amazing how well those movies hold up. They don't look aged a day. It's crazy. I don't know how they pulled it off because I was telling Caitlin, I was like, you look at any other movies from like 2000 to 2004 and they all look, you can tell they're older movies. With Lord of the Rings, they look phenomenal even today. They look better than most productions made today. And I think it's because the computer graphics were they actually cared about how they looked back then. and they use a lot of practical effects. Whereas today, like you look at like the Snow White trailer that came out, the dwarves look ridiculous. They look absolutely absurd. But back then, they actually cared about it. Hi, Andy.
Hey, tell her to look at the screen. Hi. She can wait too.
Nobody on the stream can see her. So
Oh,
the way the video's cut.
Hi.
Oh, okay. She's like,
anyway, but
so that all you've been up to, Seth?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Coach, what about you?
I've been real busy, so my gaming has been kind of minute. But I started playing this game called High on Life by Rick and the guys from Rick and Morty. And you want, in that game, it makes it to where you want to talk to everybody because it's 100% comedy, like dirty adult, like just fun, comedy. And I have it on PC. And like I was telling you, you need a good PC for it, right? So I thought I would play through it on PC before I try and get the platinum. And it's very entertaining, let's put it that way. So, and then I tried to mess around with the new Battlefront collection, and I mean, mechanically it's fine, right? But I mean, how do I put it this way? The first section, the first game, Battlefront 1 or whatever, it's broken up into like just like if you were playing online, right, where you have the kills rate and stuff,
Right.
know, but you're not playing online, right? It's just, it feels really weird, and I can see why people can't stand that game because it's not true to what it used to be.
Dude, I know we've talked about this, but I don't think Aspire is necessarily a bad team. Like they've clearly had some decent ports. The pod racing port was pretty good. The bounty hunter one that just came out not too long ago was pretty good, and they did a lot of upgrades to it, but it's like they have some hits and then some deep misses. So you've got that game, the Battlefront 1 and 2, and then yeah, exactly. You've got Republic Commando, which is a freaking mess. And I remember trying it one week on the Switch because they had like a free weekend or something where you could try it for free. And keep in mind, Republic Commando is what, like 20 years old? It can't even run at 30 frames on the Switch. Like it constantly drops in frames. And I don't understand how that's possible.
So what's cool about like the Series X and S, and I think also the 1X, is that version, which is not the remastered version, it's just the game, but it was upscaled and it plays amazing on those. So everyone's like, all right, it's coming out. I'm like, well, it's backwards compatible on Xbox. So, and then of course on PC. But
yeah.
So just trying to figure out what game I want to platinum first come January 1st.
I know you're talking about Astrobot.
Astrobot's one of them, yes.
Astrobot.
You gotta play it, dude. That game is
Oh,
so
I'm definitely
good.
gonna play it.
I want to go back. Have you done any of the I guess, did you even beat the game, Seth? I can't recall.
No, I didn't. I got
Okay.
distracted.
I need to go back and do the DLC because they've been adding in these free levels. I think they've added in like 6 or 7 levels now.
Yeah, they're
with a
speedrun
bunch of new
levels,
bots.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I need to go back and try those. But
Oh, it's a
anything
blast.
else?
Game's a blast.
Anything else, Coach?
No, that's it.
Well, I've been playing a few things here and there, just kind of bouncing around. I've been playing a little bit more of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle on PC. Not a ton, because I haven't had a ton of time this past week to game, but I still think it's excellent. My comments from last week with George still hold. I think it's a really, really well done video game. And just shows that Machine Games, they had that one miss with the Wolfenstein. Can't even think of the name of the game, but the co-op
New Blood?
one. Yeah.
Twin sisters.
Yeah, that co-op one that had like a ton of microtransactions, but outside of that, man, they've made nothing but great games in my opinion. I love those first two Wolfenstein games. The DLC expansion was great for the first one, and then now you've got Indiana Jones, and I think it's phenomenal still. So I'm looking forward to continuing through that. Outside of that, just a few things here and there. Andy and I were playing a little bit more last night of Deep Rock Galactic, which George spoke very, very highly of, and for a long period of time on this show. I think last year. It's a co-op like mining survival type game. It's really good. It's like a horde mode kind of situation. So I'm enjoying that so far. And then I did start, Coach, just to mess around with it. I don't think I'm going to play it right now, but I just wanted to see how it played Okami on the Switch.
Okay.
And it works pretty well. I was trying, because a lot of people said the motion controls are actually the best way to play it, because you can use the Joy-Con and paint like your attack thing. Yeah. And it works perfectly. You hold, anytime you want to paint, you hold R, I think it is. And as you're holding it, you just move around and it does it. And when you let off R, you stop using the motion controls and stop painting. So it works really well, and the game runs great. So whenever we decide to jump further into that, I think that'll be where I play it. So
did you know there was either a prequel or a sequel on the DS?
Yeah, Okami Den. And I think it is a prequel, if I remember right. So I never played that though. I never had it. I would almost wonder if that game is hard to find now. I don't know what the value is like on the physical. But yeah, so I played probably about an hour just to test around with it, and it runs smooth, looks good on a TV. So, but the other one I just wanted to mention here briefly is last night I decided it was time to renew my Final Fantasy 14 subscription.
Hell yeah.
It's been like at least a year since I played, and I just wanted something bigger to dive into before Monster Hunter comes out in February. And so I'm diving back into that. I really haven't played much of it so far. I've just kind of been spending time relearning my rotation for Black Mage, which is a pain.
Not
And
easy.
they added in a new move like mid level, like it's like a level 45 move suddenly that they've added in that completely changes the rotation for new players. So I've had to learn that, and we'll see what happens. But I'm a little reluctant to go back to my healer. I have a white mage that I was leveling up too, but I don't know if I want to deal with it right now. I think I just want to stick with black mage and continue through. Stormblood, I think, is the one I'm on. That's the one after Heaven's Word, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's where I'm at. But I'm looking forward to playing more. It runs great on my PC.
I got a question.
I would hope so.
Seth.
Yeah.
Okay, are you going to get Monster Hunter when it comes out?
Yeah.
Are you?
Oh, that was it. That was the.
That was.
Oh, okay.
Are you getting a coach?
I don't know, man. I tried so many times to play that damn game.
You really got to commit to it.
I know.
Is the problem. Seriously, if you don't really dive in and learn it, it's like getting past that first, I would say 5 to 10 hours is very frustrating if you're new to the series. So it's just something you got to get in. But if you get it, we'll play.
People get frustrated with Breath of the Wild, but bro, I was in immediately. So
dude, that's how I was with Tears. Tears frustrated me to no end.
Oh man, I that was like the perfect sequel. But anyways, that's not really important. So I don't know. To answer your question, I probably will get it just so I can try it out with you. Just to because the best way to learn is to play with you guys.
For sure.
So and then that way, if I do get into it, then I could go back and play Sunbreak and the others.
Yeah.
So
it's fun.
Said in the chat, Monster Hunter has too many walls of text for me. I don't feel like it really has walls of text anymore. I think it used to, but I don't really
Well,
know that
so-
Rise or World do.
The thing that I find frustrating about Monster Hunter is the needlessly complicated systems in the game that are not explained well. It took me and
Yeah.
Caitlin straight up like 2 hours to figure out how to play together in Monster Hunter Rise. I mean, why does it need to be so weird? Yeah, why can't they just have it work like every other multiplayer game?
Yeah. They that's definitely the series' biggest issue is still like the onboarding, but I don't know. I guess I look at it kind of like an MMO, because it's the same thing. Like with Final Fantasy is really the only MMO I've ever played, but a lot of what I know about that game and know how to play that game is from YouTube videos and YouTube tutorials, and it's kind of the same with Monster Hunter. So
Yeah.
it's I don't know. It definitely could be better, but at the same time, if they tone down that stuff, the people like me that love the complicated nature, I guess that's where it becomes an issue. Is if they simplify too much. So
I don't want it to be simplified.
yeah,
I just want the system. Like, why is co-oping in Monster Hunter Rise so different than it is in every other game? Why can't it just be simple? Why can't we make it just work like it does in every other game? You know,
no, that is true.
That's the kind of stuff that annoys me. So.
You know who is freaking phenomenal at that game? Well, not Monster Hunter Rise, but what's the one that was on
World?
World and Iceborne? Joe Valley.
Oh yeah, dude, he's all over that game.
No, his 7-year-old son, bro. I went to their house one time, and there he is just playing, and he, wanted me to sit with him, and he's showing me how, and I'm like, how is it that the 7-year-old can just go through and destroy? Like, he is just tearing it up. Like, he had it all memorized. He's talking, like, and he's still like just owning these monsters. And I was just like, that's impressive. When you when you feel it's your game, you just go hard. Like David Goggins, stay hard.
You just gotta learn the weapons, and you gotta realize it's not a hack and slash game, in my opinion.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it would be like the same thing for me, I'm sure, if I suddenly tried to start playing a fighting game. Like, I just have never figured those games out. But deep down, it's because I've never committed myself to them and learned how to play them. I think Monster Hunter, which I get, like, it's not for everybody, but it is so complicated that you really do have to sit there and learn it. I mean, it's like learning a foreign language in a way. And again, I think really the best comparison you can make is an MMO. In different ways, I think it's more gameplay focused in World and Rise, with all the different moves weapons can do and what they mean and when to use them and that sort of thing. It kind of is like a fighting game in ways at times. So, but to your point, Seth, I don't disagree that the actual systems themselves are overly complicated. Actually, Wild has some weird thing with, at least it was this way in the beta. I'm assuming it's the same way in the full game, where there's like 100 players in the lobbies now, but you have to have some separate code in order to link up together or something. It's still overly complicated in Wilds, but
Nintendo shit right there.
Yeah. So I think they're trying to figure out the crossplay stuff, but there's got to be a better way.
Right. I mean, January is big for me because I got 2 games I'll be playing: Donkey Kong and Dynasty Warriors Origins.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. It'll be an interesting winter, to say the least. Right.
For sure.
A good winter.
That's right. That's right. So, guys, anything else you want to add on before we jump into the Game Awards?
No, not if you're going to rush me.
I do have a question for Seth.
Okay, never mind.
Okay.
Seth, it seems like you have different headphones every time we're on. What headphones do you have on right now?
These are the ones I've had for years.
Those are the same ones.
They are Logitech. I think they're G51s.
They're wireless?
No, they're wired.
Oh, okay. Right.
Great question, Coach. Great question.
There you go. Deep,
On that
right?
note, on that note, let's dive in here. So we want to talk, of course, about the Game Awards because we were not around after the show last week, and so it's been about a week now since they happened. But we still certainly need to talk about them and everything that happened. But before we go into the games themselves, I want to talk just up front about the awards and the overall show before we dive into the announcements, because I think that's obviously what we'll spend the bulk of our time on. But overall, Seth, what did you think of the Game Awards just as a show and as an overall package?
I thought it was a really good show. I've been very critical of the Game Awards and how I have thought that in all the previous years it was a slog to sit through and not fun at all. And the only reason I watched it this year was because I had literally nothing else to do. I did not intend on watching it. If anybody had asked me to do anything, I would have not watched it. I mean, you would have given me any excuse and I would have done anything else. But I was pleasantly surprised. I thought the show was way more entertaining than previous years. I thought it was a well-paced. I thought that everything was great. I still wish they would cut out the musical numbers. I don't understand why we insist on having concerts at the Game Awards. Why is Snoop Dogg up there rapping? Does anyone even care about Snoop Dogg anymore?
I think so.
Yo, double G. No, no one cares. And you know what's funny about that too is apparently, it was going around that the people in the front were told they had to stand up and cheer for Snoop Dogg. Like they didn't do it because they wanted to. They were told they had to stand up and cheer for Snoop Dogg. And it's like, all right.
Because if you have to tell someone to cheer, then you probably shouldn't have them there in the first place.
Yeah, but I'm sure in all like awards shows when someone comes on, they're like required.
It was just really funny because the camera was like, you could tell they were desperately searching for people that were like enjoying themselves when Snoop Dogg was rapping. And if you looked in the background, everyone else was very stoic and like, please, let's move on. You know, like I'm over it.
I would have loved to have seen a zoom in on Kojima's face.
Yeah.
During that segment.
So Dog is blocked.
But yeah, I thought the announcements were great. I thought the show was paced well. I had a good time watching it.
Coach, what about you?
So the first thing I noticed was it seemed to be a little bit more grand, like the production value of it, right? The set and everything. It seemed to be more grand. And I'm kind of the opposite with Seth is I don't mind the orchestra if it's a game that I like, right? If it's something that I like. But if it's something that I don't like, I just kind of tune out or I go get on my phone or something like that. And is Seth okay? Or is Austin all right?
Yeah, he tuned you out.
Oh, okay. He's eating. Okay. So I'm just glad there wasn't any main, like, if there was controversy, I probably wouldn't have wanted to watch it next year. But it seemed like it went off rather well, except for that one guy who, like, supposedly is helping people get jobs or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
wait,
dude works at Tencent.
Oh, my God. That guy that they had a whole bit about?
Yeah.
They're like,
he started, he had like an award for like helping other people. And he started like he started jobs. Developers that got laid off. He made like a website to help them find their jobs. Well, it turns out he's like an exec, and they didn't say anything about like his work. It made it seem like he was doing this at a charity. Well, it turns out he's like an executive at Tencent. I mean, they didn't say anything about that. Yeah, it was like super shady.
That's weird.
Yeah, it came out like the next day, like the stuff people find, right? Like something like we don't do, like I don't delve into who this guy was. I'm like, okay, maybe he, but then everyone's like, oh, he built a spreadsheet, you know, and so. But I'm just glad. I was happy with. I guess. I mean, I kind of don't really care, but the fact that Astro won, I like that, right? Get a platformer in there, you know. We don't need this 900 story drama type of game. Just a fun platformer, right?
Yeah, I was
I
going to
think
say just because I don't think we're really going to talk about any of the awards themselves aside from the game of the year. I was very excited when Astrobot won. I mean, frankly, I don't think I played any of the other games this year, so I don't really have an opinion on whether it should have won or not necessarily. But hey, man, of games that I've played in the past decade, it's probably the most perfect video game I've ever played, just from like a fun standpoint, from a technical standpoint. So I think it certainly deserved to win. But Seth, what you were going to say something?
I was gonna say I think the people that are freaking out about Wukong not winning are being very annoying
Yes, I would agree with that.
because I don't think Wukong even deserved to be up there. To be honest with you,
No, I completely agree. In fact, this is kind of the argument for maybe why this show should be later, because I feel like Indiana Jones should have been up there over Wukong personally, just based off the review scores.
But it'll be on next year though.
no, it won't.
It usually doesn't make it. Usually they won't put things from December on the next year's show. I don't think that's really. There may have been one instance where that's happened,
Right.
but
I can't. Yeah, I can't think of that.
either way, though, frankly, with all the games coming out in 2025,
Yeah.
I bet there's going to be better games out there. But yeah, I don't really understand the Wukong situation. I mean, I don't really want to get into it, but I think you can look at the review scores, and that game objectively has the lowest scores of every game up there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not even close. And I don't know. I just felt like there were better games that they could have chosen personally, but I think they had to do it. And this isn't, necessarily a wrong statement to make, but obviously a lot of Chinese gamers were very excited for that game. And certainly if Jeff has, people from Tencent up on the stage, I'm sure that there's some investment there from China in his show.
Yeah, it's a
And
little shady.
I'm being very serious about that. I
Sure.
mean, I'm sure that's part of why
Never thought of
Wukong
that.
was nominated.
Right.
So
And now though, the way that I look at reviews for games, it's the same way I look at reviews for movies. Like I always go to the audience score. Case in point, The Last Jedi. The perfect example of the critics gave it a high score, but
Yeah.
the audience gave it a low score, right? It was low. So it's hard to say, like when you compare user scores and for games, just because I think we're at that same point now with the whole.
for sure.
Yeah. But anyways.
So, but yeah, I was just gonna say, because I didn't really give my thoughts on it. I thought it was excellent. I actually was not watching it. I did not watch the first half the night of, because I just really didn't care after the past few years that have been frankly awful and just absolutely dreadful to sit there and watch for 3.5 hours or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so I just straight up didn't watch it. But then I started to see all this stuff being announced and sat down and started and caught the second half live and went back and rewatched the first half later on last week. But I thought it was excellent. I mean, I guess on like an A to F ranking, I'd probably give it like an A minus, B plus, something like that, which I didn't think it was like phenomenal, but I thought for a game of the year or a game awards show, it was really well done. So, and I agree with you, Coach. I thought the production was great. I noticed that too. It seemed something about it seemed very high quality this year compared to last year. So, anyway, so let's get into some of these games, because I think that's obviously the big thing we want to talk about. Just to set some expectations here, we've kind of set out this list of games that we want to talk about. They announce far more than what we're going to talk about here on the show, but we didn't want to talk about every single game, and certainly none of us or all of us. What am I trying to say here? The games that were announced, we're not all going to have comments on, so we decided to kind of narrow it down to specific ones. So the game the main show kicked it off with, dude, The Witcher 4 immediately. What an announcement. So well done. Yeah. And I've seen some confusion. I heard on another podcast, it might have been Sacred Symbols, somebody saying that this was a CGI cinematic, but they made it pretty clear at the beginning. There's a little box at the bottom that says this is all in game, and it's running off the new unannounced, presumably 5090 graphics card. So obviously it's not gameplay, but it is in engine. So
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter anymore. The engines are so powerful
sure.
and strong that like it doesn't really matter. We've been getting in-engine trailers forever that are essentially just CG.
Yeah.
So.
What did you think, Seth? Because obviously you're the biggest Witcher fan of all of us.
Yeah. So I was just talking to Caitlin. I put 260 hours into The Witcher 3, and I'm torn on it, you know, because on one hand, I have been a CD Projekt Red fan forever. You know, I played The Witcher 1, and I was the one, you know, hyping up The Witcher 3 because they released updates to The Witcher 2 pretty much right until the release of Witcher 3. They kept adding new content and stuff, and CD Projekt Red has always, up until Cyberpunk, treated their fans extremely well and listened to their people and changed the game according to what the recommendations of the people were. And then CD Projekt used all that goodwill to their advantage and stabbed people in the back and deceived people with Cyberpunk. And I have a hard time getting excited when I know that's the kind of company they are now. You know, I guess a lot of people left after The Witcher 3. And I was looking into it, and it seems like, you know, the typical situation of a lot of developers leaving a studio, sort of like the BioWare situation. On the other hand, I do love The Witcher. I've been a longtime fan of the series. I'm a big fan of Ciri. People that are mad that Ciri is the main protagonist, I truly don't believe have played the games. The Witcher 3 was always set up to be Geralt's retirement party. They literally have him retiring in the Blood and Wine expansion. He has a giant house, and he retires with whoever the love interest that you choose is at the end of that expansion. Like that is his whole swan song is The Witcher 3. The whole series is set up with Ciri being his successor. The Witcher 4 was always going to have Ciri as the main protagonist, and I think that's cool. My biggest issue, which and I know I've talked to you guys about, I think Friday, is that Ciri does not need to be a Witcher. I think it's totally against her character that she is a Witcher in this game. Geralt and Yennefer, her adoptive parents, both regretted their decisions to not be able to have children. And that's pretty much all of Yennefer's like character arc. And they wouldn't have allowed Ciri to take the Trial of Grasses. It's not that Ciri couldn't survive, like a lot of people are saying. She has elder blood in her. It's just that she was already more powerful than a Witcher in The Witcher 3. She's literally an interdimensional like being. She can travel between dimensions, and she can teleport, which is far more powerful than Witcher magic. So for them to like just try to cash in on the name of a Witcher is very strange to me. I think that sucks. She should have been a Witcher in name and not necessarily in reality.
Form, yeah.
Yeah. But I'm excited for it. I'm trying to tamper my expectations because I have a hard time trusting CD Projekt after what they did with Cyberpunk.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree. I want to go back and play Witcher 3. I mean, frankly, I'd like to play all three of them, but if anything, I might do 2 and 3. One I think holds up kind of rough from what I remember, because I tried to play it a few years ago.
Well,
they're remaking it though.
It's a tough
one.
one.
Remaking the
I forgot
one?
about that.
Yep.
I wonder if they'll release that before 4. I don't know. But I'd love to go back and play them. But yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, I'm excited for whatever CD Projekt does, because obviously they've put out some good stuff in the past, and they clearly fixed Cyberpunk, and it's in a great state now, and it's an excellent game at this point. But you're right. I mean, the reality is they fixed it, but how can you forget what happened and the state of that game for a year and a half, 2 years? Yep. I mean, I'm glad that it's fixed, and I'm glad that they put all that work in, but at the same time, how can you really be totally confident in a launch product from them anymore at this point. I don't know.
Well, to me, like it goes beyond just releasing a badly, messed up game. It's like they deceived people. They used their goodwill to their own advantage and deceived people with it. And that is what I find most egregious. Like I just you can't trust a developer when they do that.
Coach, you never played any of these, right?
No, but you remember Sony took it off the store.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And Sony, that's unheard of for Sony to do that, right? They've never done it.
Right.
Yeah. Except for Concord.
So for 2, I know it's backwards compatible on Series S and X, right?
Yep.
Can you play? Is there a version on PS4 or 5?
No.
Nope.
So the only way to play it is if you have an Xbox Series S or X, right?
Or PC, yeah.
Oh, PC. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I mean, I always
really
want
good,
to, but it's like I know I'll have to invest hundreds and hundreds of hours to play through 2, to play through 3, and then
No, you can just play 3.
But that's not what you said like 10 years ago. Or when it came out. You
that was before.
You got to read all the damn books and the comics.
Well, I never read the book, so I definitely didn't say that.
I read the first 2 books. They're great.
Yeah, I heard they're
really good. I just want to shout out an absolute legend that just entered our chat. Vatsal Patel has just commented.
Wow.
He said, "What's up, guys? Good to hear from you, Vatsal.
Buddy.
It's been a while."
That's a name I haven't heard.
Yeah. So, anyway, I mean, I am excited for Witcher 4, but I've got to play the other ones first, obviously.
Okay, so then what are we going to play first? 2 or 3 odds? Or are we just going to play 3?
My gut feeling is to play 2, to be honest with you.
2's a good game. It depends on how much time you're willing to invest into the series. Are you willing to invest the time? I think 2's a really good game. That's worth playing. It holds up and it looks good. Also, worth noting, it has the first video game character to be featured on the cover of Playboy and Tris Marigold. So worthwhile achievement in there.
Okay.
But I think it depends on how much time you're willing to invest in it. I think if you look at how long to beat, my gut tells me The Witcher 3, 70 hours.
Let's see.
Yeah. I feel like I got to be pretty close.
For main story, it says 51, main plus sides 103. So,
but what about the DLC for it? They're like 40 hours long, aren't they? The
DLCs are big.
Yeah.
DLCs are big. They're like extra contents.
And then
it's like
Witcher,
a whole other game.
Witcher 2. Oh, Witcher 2 is much shorter, Coach. Witcher 3 main plus sides 34 hours.
Yeah.
So I think we can do that.
Do what?
Witcher 2. I say we start with Witcher 2 and play 3 after. For 35 hours, main plus sides, I think we can make that happen and then jump into 3. And we have years.
I think playing The Witcher 2 is it's a worthwhile game, like I said, and I think it will get you into these characters in the world enough to play 3. But I think you can also, if you're not feeling it, you can also just jump into 3.
Yeah. That's actually what Vatsal just asked, was if you can go directly in. And yeah, I know you can.
You can.
You can certainly just look up backstory on YouTube, watch like the what happened in Witcher 1 and 2 videos. So, but Coach, and you may know more about this, Seth, as far as what carries over, but there is, just like Mass Effect, a save transfer from Witcher 2 to 3. I don't know if it transfers like decisions or anything, though.
It does more of a Dragon Age Inquisition style save data transfer, where there's a cutscene where Geralt is getting shaved, and they ask you what happened.
I see.
In previous games, and you have to select the choices you made in previous games, and Geralt retells what happened.
Interesting.
And you can turn that off, by the way, if you're not familiar with Witcher 1 or 2.
Well, Coach, I say we try to at some point.
I got my Series S right here, so I'll just buy that bitch.
Let's do it. I've got them all. So
buy that bitch.
Jump in.
So how are the controls though using? Because it looks like it's is it a keyboard? I mean, like, would it be better to play keyboard or is it better with a controller?
I've never played it with keyboard. Witcher 2 was primarily a PC game. That's how these games started. I would assume that it plays fine either way because I played the Witcher series with a controller, except for the Witcher 1, 2 decades ago. What I will say that the highlight of the Witcher games, especially the Witcher 3, not so much Witcher 2, because Witcher 2 is more of an action game, but it's more about strategic action combat. It's not a hack and slash game. It's okay. I got to find the weakness of this particular type of monster, and I'm gonna coat my blade in oil, and I'm gonna use the right magic spell that it's weak to. Because that's what the Witchers do. The thing that makes the Witchers special isn't just the mutations; it's their knowledge of the monsters in the world around them and how they're able to use that. Because their whole thing is they're expert monster hunters. So,
yeah, just like Joel Valley's 7-year-old son.
Yeah, just like Joel Valley's 7-year-old son.
So there's that. The next big game to talk about here. I don't know. I think you played Elden Ring, Seth, but Coach and I did not. Was Elden Ring Night Rain was the next game or next big game they announced, I should say. Because again, just to reiterate, we're not going through every single game they announced, but it's this new kind of co-op focused Elden Ring game. It is not Elden Ring 2, but more of kind of like a standalone multiplayer focused Elden Ring game. It's 1 to 3 players, and I don't know if this is true, but I read something earlier that kind of set me off, claiming that you can't play the game with 2 players. You either have to play it single player or with 3 players, which is like Triforce Heroes on 3DS, which is why I never played it, because I never had a third person to play that game with. So, again, Seth, I think since you're the only one here that's played Elden Ring, what do you think about this one?
It doesn't look like Elden Ring. That was my takeaway from it. It looks a lot faster and more actiony than Elden Ring. Other than that, I think it looks cool. What I think is really interesting is, according to people that are more into the series, in the trailer there was a Dark Souls 3 boss. So apparently they're using more of their catalog of bosses than they had previously, which I think is a pretty neat thing. But I think it makes sense. People really dug the co-op element to Elden Ring, and to make a game out of that with the assets that you already have, it makes a lot of sense. I like it. It looks, and it's beautiful too.
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea. I just wish that you could have 2 people. I don't. They need to change that. I doubt they will, because it's FromSoft and they'll do whatever they want. But I find that a very odd decision. So
that's one thing I respect about them, though, is that
that's true.
They make what they want, and they don't care what you think.
They stand their ground. Yeah. So, but I've always wanted a full FromSoft game that is just fully co-op. Like, I hope whatever, hypothetically Bloodborne 2 or whatever, I hope it's something you can easily play through the whole game 2-player. I know you can play those games co-op, but you have to have items and, consumables in order to do so, and you get kicked out after beating a boss, and there's all this complicated stuff to it. So I'd love to see just a full 2-player Elden Ring 2 or whatever without those consumables, but I doubt they'll do that. They'll probably stick with what they have.
Yeah.
So it does look good, though. I still need to play Elden Ring. That's a game that I added to my Steam wish list after I built this computer, because I really do want to play it. Really, the only Souls game I ever played was Bloodborne, and I loved it. I bought that Demon Souls remake on PS5 when I bought mine, but I don't even think I touched it. So, at some point, Elden Ring.
Yeah,
Coach, do you have any interest in Souls games, Coach?
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of them on very easy difficulty.
Well, there's no difficulties.
I know. I love the fact that people complain and they want From Software to change that and make different difficulties. Like, how do you do that? Like, but you want them to bend the knee to you? Like,
They want what they call game journalist
get
mode.
good. Wait, say that again?
They don't want an easy mode. They want a mode that should be called game journalist mode.
Yeah.
And if they want that, Seth, what they can also add in is an end credit scene about an hour into the game. That way they can say they beat it. So
yeah.
This next one, I don't know how you guys feel about this. I never played The Last Guardian, but I freaking love Shadow of the Colossus. Fumito Ueda announced his new game, Project Robot is all it's called right now. He's with Gen Design. He used to be with Team Eco back in the PS2 days, and I guess with PS4 with Last Guardian, but it looks essentially like kind of like a Shadow of the Colossus type thing. Like you're climbing up this mech, which is new for him. He's never made a sci-fi game before. But just the whole vibe of this trailer got me. I'm already really excited for this.
Yeah, it looks interesting.
Based off how the trailer portrays everything.
But I will. I need to go take a look at it.
Give me Gurren Lagann vibes, because Gurren Lagann has a mech with a detachable head.
Yeah.
But I don't like it. I don't like this director. I should say I don't like his games. They're not for me.
I get it. And after everything that happened with Last Guardian 2, I mean, there was so much confusion with that game. I need to go back and play it because I actually heard it is pretty good now, like getting away from all the nonsense around the launch of it. But I love Shadow of the Colossus.
Didn't they say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was in development for like a decade.
Yeah.
So
wow,
that was the was it E3? That was like the E3 of Dreams when they announced that game. And was it Shenmue or Final Fantasy that was at that one? Or no, it was Kingdom Hearts 3 maybe?
I thought The Last Guardian was announced in like 2006.
Yeah, but if you remember, it disappeared for like an extended amount of time, and then it eventually came back like in 2014 or something like that at an E3.
Colin and Greg kept talking about it. Like they wouldn't let it die.
That was the E3. I think it was Kingdom Hearts 3 and Shenmue 3. Those were all three like revealed at that E3, and everybody lost their minds. So, but yeah, I'm really excited for this. I mean, who knows what it'll look like in the grand scheme of things, but I love Shadow of the Colossus, so I'd love to see more. Outer Worlds 2, new from Obsidian. Obviously, they had already announced this game, but they came out and said it's coming out next year, which is interesting to me because, of course, they've also got Avowed coming. So they've got two big RPGs, a Elder Scrolls style RPG, and what, like 2 months that game comes out?
Is it really that soon?
It's like February, first week of February. I could be wrong.
Wow. I wasn't aware.
Hold on, I'm going to look it up to confirm. But they've got that coming out, and then now, presumably, if it doesn't get delayed, Outer Wilds or Outer Worlds 2 sometime later in the year. Yeah, it's February 13th is Avowed.
Wow.
So like 2 weeks before Monster Hunter.
Wow.
But did you guys ever play the first Outer Worlds? It's kind of like a Fallout-esque game. I really enjoyed it.
You got
I enjoyed a bit of it.
Good press, right?
Yeah.
I enjoyed the game.
I liked it a lot. I thought the characters were really well done and the gameplay was really good. So
it's very much like a Fallout game, but it's set in outer space, which makes me wonder why they're making this and not the next Fallout game. In general, considering they both owned by Microsoft now.
Good point. Although maybe this was in development for a while, I don't know.
Cancel it.
Yeah, just reskin it.
Yeah, Microsoft, cancel it and make the next Fallout with Obsidian.
So I was really excited for this next one when they showed it off. It's the new game from the It Takes Two guys, Hazelight, and it's called Split Fiction. And it kind of follows that same style that It Takes Two had, and A Way Out, the game they made before it, which was like that prison break game, which is you have to have a second player. So the only way you can play it is co-op, but it splits the screen right down the middle, so you can see both both people, even if you're playing online with the person, you can see what the other person's doing. And best part is they're still doing this. I love this. If you buy the game, you get a friend pass and you can send your friend essentially a free copy of the game to play with you. If they're on a different system or on a different computer. So I loved It Takes Two. Yeah. I loved It Takes Two. I love the one before. I loved Way Out. And this game looks really interesting to me.
Yeah, me too. I think it looks really good. I will say this developer is the king of making generic names.
Yes.
Because I don't think any of his names sound good. But I didn't play It Takes Two yet. I did play A Way Out, and I thought A Way Out was very fun.
Yeah. Great writing. Same thing with It Takes Two. The gameplay in It Takes Two is fantastic.
The twist in A Way Out was really good, even though like we've seen that kind of thing before. Still blew my mind.
Coach, at some point we should sit down and play that game. It's not very long. I think you'd really like that game. It's really well done.
Yeah, you can beat it in a night.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, really?
Like maybe 4 or 5 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good.
Over a weekend.
Yeah. So yeah, in this game, I love the concept of it, where it's like one person is a fantasy writer and the other person's a sci-fi writer. So the levels will go back and forth between fantasy worlds and sci-fi worlds. I think that's really innovative, something we really haven't seen before. So I'm excited to see what they do with it. And that's another one that's soon. This game had not been announced before the Game Awards, and it's, I think, also February.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. So let me confirm the exact date. It is... Oh, I'm sorry. March.
Still pretty close.
March 6th. So, yeah. Cool. Borderlands 4 has been announced, but we got our first look at gameplay at the show. And I just wanted to bring this up because does anyone still care about Borderlands? That's really what I wanted to ask.
I never vibed with the Borderlands comedy. So I've never been into Borderlands. I will say, though, I always liked the Borderlands art style. Yeah. And this looks generic as fuck. This is the most generic game I've ever seen in my whole life.
Austin, you and we streamed it one time.
I think on like PS4, right?
Yeah, on PS4. And it's just nothing like to keep it going.
Yeah. The game is all about gameplay. I know it has story to it, but there's nothing story-wise in Borderlands that interests me really at all. So I don't know. I'm a little surprised they're doing a 4 considering 3 came out, and I heard a lot of people say it wasn't really that good compared to the older ones. And I heard that Tiny Tina's game or whatever was fine.
But it was like a D&D campaign.
Yeah. So I remember was it 2013, I went to QuakeCon, and there were a lot of people playing it on PC. I don't know which Borderlands, probably the first one, but there were a lot of people into that game. A lot of people playing it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think the older ones are pretty good. I've never beaten one because they're so...
Everyone says not to play one, just go for the...
Yeah. 2 is the best one from what my understanding is, so... Yeah. So there you have it. None of us care about Borderlands 4, although I feel bad because I'm sure there's somebody out there that does, but I'm just surprised they're still continuing with the series. And
I just think the new art style looks generic. I think Borderlands did have a really good art style, but this does not have that. This looks like a very generic looter shooter.
And that movie certainly did not help them in any way. So
it sure did not.
Okay, so the next 2 are actually from the same studio, Virtua Fighter, reboot of Virtua Fighter, and only what they're calling Project Century, and they're both from Yuga Gotoku, which is the studio that does the Yakuza, now known as Like a Dragon games. So these are both from that same developer. I'm sure they're not the same set of developers. I'm sure it's different teams, but I thought in particular the fact that they're doing Virtua Fighter, I found that fascinating because they obviously have never touched that series before.
Mm-hmm.
But it does make sense when you think about at least like the older Yakuza games, the way they play and kind of the 3D fighting aspects to them. So, were you ever a Virtua Fighter person, Seth?
I was a huge Virtua Fighter fan. This trailer got me absolutely fired up because when I saw the Ryu Goku Kai, I don't know how to say it, splash screen pop up, I was like, oh, this is gonna be a Yakuza game because they make 1,000 of them a year.
Right.
And then when it turned out to be Virtua Fighter, I audibly yelled. I was like, oh my god, because Virtua Fighter's awesome, dude. Virtua Fighter is a lot of fun.
When was the first one?
Virtua Fighter.
Yeah, when?
Oh, when? Oh my god.
Yeah, what was it?
I'll find out. Let's see.
Is it
96?
Yeah.
Arcade? It was early arcade game, yeah.
It was
96 is pretty
93.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just remember the way that they would move across the screen.
Yeah, very good. Very good. I like Virtua Fighter a lot. Hard. Virtua Fighter is a very hard game series. As far as the other game they announced, I think it's a option because they realize that the Yakuza series and the Like a Dragon series both have deep lore and it might be intimidating to people, so they make this third series to give people a jumping in point to the type of game. It looks exactly like what we've seen before from them, and I think it just allows them to get a new audience perhaps into these games, and I think that's totally fine. All the games they make are all great, so I have no reason to think this is going to be any worse.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited for this one for that reason because Yakuza, I mean, I've wanted to jump into them, but there's just so much to catch up on, and I know there's no way I'm ever going to play, 8 games at this point, plus if you add on like the Man Who Erased His Name and like those other side spin-offs, so it's at least 10 games.
I don't think you need to play them all, to be honest with you. I didn't play them all. I played Kiwami 2. I played a little bit of 7, and I'm like, I like this series. This is a good series.
Yeah,
fun.
So I think it looks good. Coach, any comments on that at all? Yakuza?
No, I never got into this series.
Okay, well, I think you might have comments on. Oh no, not that one yet. Hold on. Oh wait, no, it is that one. Do you have comments on Turok Origins?
You know,
it dropped out of nowhere. Very odd.
Yeah, but you know, like, so those games recently, they've been getting like a remaster.
Yeah, the Night Dive guys.
Yes. So, and they've done a really good job. It looks good. They kept it true to what it was. They didn't do anything crazy with it. But this new game does not feel like, I don't know, it just, the look of it kind of took me out. Like, I don't know, it just looked different. And so I went to the comments and people felt the same. Like the ones that were longtime fans of the series, right? They're not feeling. I don't think people are feeling.
I just don't know why they changed why make it third person? Like Turok is known to be a first person shooter, you know, kind of in the style of Doom or Quake or whatever, and they suddenly change it to third person after it's been gone for, you know, decades or whatever it's been. I don't know. I found that very odd.
You know, there's a time to like kind of change things up, but you got to do it in the right way. So this could be a change where it kind of just destroys the company, right? Where it just falls flat. We'll see what happens. We'll see. Did it give? I'm trying to think if it did. It gave a 2025 release date, I think.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
So, but I was interested in that just to see how it's going to play out.
Based off what I'm looking at, they didn't give a date, so it's just unannounced at the moment. But I mean, I don't think it looks terrible. I think the gameplay looks pretty decent. It's just weird to make a change like that. Frankly, I never played the originals, but I'd love to go back and play those new upgrades from Night Dive at some point. So, did you ever play these games, Seth?
I missed them.
Well, the next one took me by surprise, but this is again another series I've never played, and that is Onimusha. They announced Way of the Sword, which is the first game in that franchise in quite some time. I want to go back and play them. I was listening to Sacred Symbols this week, and I kind of forgot they ported. Was it the first game they ported to PS4 a few years ago? I forget what it was, but I never played this series. I've always heard good things though, especially the first two. So
I never played Onimusha. It's just one of those game series that I missed. So
yeah, it's interesting that it just kind of came out of nowhere. I was just checking again, and yeah, Onimusha Warlords was a remaster that dropped in 2018, and that was a remaster of the first game. But aside from that, they had not had a full-on original game in like 20 years almost. So this will be the first one in 2 decades, which is interesting.
What kind of game is it?
I think it's kind of... I'm not sure because I've never played them, but I think it's kind of a more technical sword fighting game from what I remember.
Didn't they have
it's a little bit like Ghost of Tsushima.
Was there an Onimusha Tactics?
I don't know.
I think there
really
was. I could be wrong.
So, but I know a lot of people pop for that game, and I'll definitely check it out. I mean, if there's a way to play it without necessarily having knowledge of the previous games, I'd love to try it. So, the final 2 games here, certainly for me, I think the biggest ones. First one, Okami sequel, and guess who's back? Hideki Kamiya, back working with Capcom after like 20 plus years away. Of course, he went on to found Platinum Games after he left, and now has left Platinum and has started his own team, Clovers, which they also announced, which is an homage to his original team at Capcom called Clover. So, pretty cool. I mean, we didn't really see anything. Obviously, it was just like a little CGI trailer announcing that they're working on it, but it's nice to see him back doing this kind of game again.
What was the last thing that he put out?
Gosh, I guess it would be Bayonetta 3?
Did he work on that?
I think so. From what I remember, I think he did the Bayonetta games.
But I think he did. There was something else that he did. Oh, you remember that game that got scrapped by Xbox?
Scalebound.
Scalebound. That's what I was thinking of. He came into E3 with those cool looking glasses, like the. And then we didn't hear anything about it. A lot of people wanted that game. Like they're like, well, maybe somebody will buy the rights of it and finish it up.
They canceled it out of nowhere.
Yeah.
For no reason.
And it looked great.
Yeah.
Well,
it was really cool.
I don't know if it looked great.
I don't know. I thought it looked good. But yeah, I just checked to confirm he was I guess he wasn't the director of Bayonetta 3 and Bayonetta Origins, but he was the supervising director and did work on the plot. So those were the last games he's worked on.
And I think one of the first ones he did was, I think, Resident Evil 2.
Yep. He was the director of Resident Evil 2.
Yep.
And he did work on the original Resident Evil as well. It's as a system planner, at least according to Wikipedia. But yeah, he's worked on a lot. I mean, Devil May Cry, of course, he directed. Beautiful Joe, Okami, Bayonetta. So he's done quite a bit. But yeah, I just thought this announcement was really cool. I'm excited to see what they do with it. And
about it.
Yeah.
I guess as soon as I got off Twitter about 4 or 5 years ago.
Maybe he blocked you.
I don't think I got blocked. I'm not one of the lucky ones.
Seth, any comments on Okami sequel? Is the only thing
yeah, it was a really weird title screen. I never played Okami. I always wanted to. It was always one of those series that I meant to get around to. Never did. So I'm not the guy to talk about Okami, but I think it's cool to get a sequel.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I was saying earlier in the show, I'm definitely going to play through it soon. And it's long, Coach. Did you know that? It's like 35 hours long.
Something like that, yeah.
I didn't realize that. I thought it was maybe 10 to 15.
I heard it's very Zelda-like.
It is. Yeah, so, which I'm looking forward to. But, okay, so this last one... Oh, go ahead.
No, I just said Wolf Link.
Oh. This last one definitely, I think, is the most conversational one of every game for sure, just because of all the dialogue going on right now with everything on the internet. But Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, the new game from Naughty Dog, kind of came out of nowhere. I don't think it was that surprising in hindsight. In that moment, watching it live, I mean, I absolutely lost it because I just did not know what I was watching. And then I saw that from the makers of Crash Bandicoot, and like, oh, I see. But it's not too surprising. I mean, it's been 4 years since Last of Us 2. They haven't done anything since then, except for Factions, which was canceled. And cool to see, though. There had been rumors going around about the direction of their next game and it possibly being sci-fi. And this trademark actually leaked like a year ago, and I remember hearing about it at the time. But I don't know, man. Like the internet conversation around this game is so toxic, and
Well, yeah.
it's been that way with Naughty Dog since Last of Us 2. But I mean, we've seen one trailer. Frankly, I think it looks excellent. I think the style of the game overall is really cool. I think the biggest thing that everybody's pointing to, which I do agree with, is clearly we can all agree that the product placement is very odd.
Yeah. Really, really like drew my attention.
Yeah, I don't really understand like the Porsche and Adidas, and I mean Sony's fine because it's a Sony game, but I don't really know what the deal is there. I'm not really sure. So I'm hoping it's not just constant with that crap. But aside from that, I think the vibe of the trailer was excellent.
We've seen movies do this for years, right? Like movies will have different cars in them based on like sponsorships and stuff like that. And Sony might be trying to play that kind of card where it's like, all right, well, let's get these companies to give us some extra cash, help, make the development of the game a little easier. I could see that being a thing.
Yeah, it's not unheard of. Actually, if you go back and play the original version of Alan Wake, not the remaster, when you pick up batteries, they're all energizers. And when you look at billboards, there are Verizon wireless billboards everywhere. And there's something else. There was another product placement in that game that was very odd. I can't remember what it was. And then, of course, in Death Stranding, the big one you had was Monster. Norman Reedus would go in his room and he would pick up literally a Monster Energy and start drinking it.
That's right.
What were you saying,
Final Fantasy 15 had Coolman.
No, both you guys froze. You froze again.
We're all moving for me. I think it's you that's frozen, Coach.
Moving for me, too.
Oh, Coach is frozen.
How about now?
You're good now.
Everything's working great for me.
Yeah. Okay, so it was an interesting trailer, right? So I liked it because they didn't give us a lot. So it kind of still like makes you're guessing, what is this game going to be about? So, and then of course, yeah, the internet is going crazy right now over the main character, which honestly, I kind of really don't care. But
yeah, I do not care at all. I don't really understand the.
I don't care about the main character. I care about a lot of other stuff about how generic I think it seems. To be honest with you, it seems like typical like retro fantasy, retro sci-fi environment. I mean, you guys know this. I'm not a Naughty Dog guy, so immediately I'm like, all right, I'm probably not gonna be into this. The last game I really enjoyed from Naughty Dog was Uncharted 2. I played all the games up until Uncharted 4, and at that point, I was like, all right, you know what? Their games and stories just don't resonate with me. I did find, I found this to be too much like Guardians of the Galaxy, down to like her putting in the CD, right? And then them failing to play the Intergalactic song from Beastie Boys somehow. Like, how do you fuck that up? That's a given, but they're just not for me. And I'm just so over this aesthetic of we're gonna have all this 80s stuff in a sci-fi setting. and I just think it's really boring. The character's ugly, yeah, whatever. Like you said, I don't really care about that, but there was nothing there, in my opinion, that made the game seem interesting. So, because of that,
I thought the most interesting thing of the whole trailer was that it's been in development since 2020. So when
that makes sense.
So when should we expect this? 2025? 2026?
I feel like it's going to be 26. I could be wrong, but I don't know. I wonder like how much of the factions team was redirected to this, or how much of that team was redirected to Last of Us 3. I don't know. Certainly they have two teams operating simultaneously, because I don't feel like this game would have even gotten a trailer if every single person on their team had been working on factions. But I don't know. I feel like it's 26. If they're only showing us kind of this cinematic trailer, which is an engine, but really no gameplay at all, and no even reference to a year at the end, I think 26 makes sense.
So that means it'll be like 6 years of development, right?
Yeah.
I miss the days when, especially during PS3 era, that we would get Arkham Asylum and then we get Arkham City, right? And then you had both Infamous 2. You had they had it down where they could still produce a really good game in a short amount of time. Now, I know, of course, the technology has, of course, quadrupled 10 times over. But to take that long to make a game?
I don't disagree at all. It's so frustrating to see games take 4, 5, 6 years to release, especially when they're... Obviously, this isn't the case with this one, but when it's like a direct sequel. I think the most recent one that I found so frustrating was God of War, because it was 4 years between the original and 2, and it was literally like a direct story continuation. And to wait 4 years for the story to pick up, I don't know. It was a lot. I love that game still, but just that wait was extremely difficult. But I was looking back just out of curiosity at Naughty Dog's development kind of timeline. And you can just see, like, visually looking at this timeline right now, how much they've slowed down. And it's not a Naughty Dog issue. It's an industry issue of all these games, the development becoming bloated and so high budget compared to where we used to be. But you look at The Last of Us in 2013. 3 years later, you had Uncharted 4. 1 year later, you had Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. And then you go 3 years from Last of Us Part 2, and now presumably like 5 to 6 years from Last of Us Part 2 to Intergalactic. So, I don't know, man. It is frustrating. I wish we would get games from big developers like this on a more consistent basis and not so all over the place. But I don't know. I'm looking forward to it.
Look at the most recent Assassin's Creed, right? It's not, I don't even know if I consider that a AAA game. But it's at
Shadows?
that level, huh?
Mirage?
The new one coming out? Shadows?
Mirage. No, Mirage. The one that released.
It was originally a DLC.
Oh, was it really?
Mm-hmm. They expanded it into making it a whole game.
Okay. So you can still put stuff out like that, and people will buy it. I don't know how well it did, but I know that people bought it, and people were excited because it seemed like they're going back to old, the second Assassin's Creed, that old Brotherhood, that time frame, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I mean, think of Tears of the Kingdom. What was that, 6 years?
Yeah, that was a long freaking time.
6 damn hell ass years between those two, right? And look at you had Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time. There wasn't that one,
Yeah.
It was. I miss those days where we got games. We waited, but it wasn't like insane wait. right? So Rocksteady saying, "Oh, we're going back to Arkham," right? When are they going to go? Are they going to spend all this time, all this money, all these assets, and then 6 years later, here we go, we got it.
True.
So I guess it's the state of gaming, and I just miss the PS3, early PS4 years, right?
It's gonna snap back eventually. I mean, it's just unsustainable.
Yeah, and I just have to say, this is slightly on topic, but slightly unrelated. When PS5 was announced, one of the big things they announced at that time was Unreal Engine 5, and they were talking about how it was going to speed up development and it was going to make things so much faster for people. I just want to say, because I don't think I've ever brought this up on the podcast, that engine is terrible.
Yeah.
It's absolutely awful. It has so many issues.
Yep.
And I'm sure that's why a lot of these new games are still struggling, because they're trying to use this Unreal Engine 5 and it's not working at all the way that it was made out to. So there's got to be a better option.
There's a lot of options, but Unreal 5 is the most popular, and I'm assuming there's a good reason why people keep using it. But yeah, it does seem like it's got nothing but issues. Like the games are just constantly stuttering on it, and not great.
Remember when they showcased the Unreal 3? They do a video for it, and we're just, ooh, check that out.
All right, guys. Well, anything else? Any other final comments here on the Game Awards for 2024?
It's actually good, man. I actually enjoyed watching it. Last one I did was during COVID, but this one was actually fun. So next year, I definitely will be watching.
Yep. It was good.
Yeah, I agree.
Good show.
I agree.
Maybe we should stream it.
That's a good idea. It would have been great to stream this one.
I think George wanted to, and we were like, "Nah,
I know.
we're not."
Yeah, we were like, "Oh, we're not going to watch it." Then we all did. So
30 minutes into it, we're all chatting.
Anyway, all right, guys. Well, good stuff. Just a quick little note here for those listening. We're going to be away for a little while for the holidays, partially because of the holidays, but mainly because of my work schedule. I'm going to be working overnights for the next 2 weeks, so I won't be around for the next 2 weeks here. And so with that, this will be our last episode of 2024. We'll be back certainly within that first week of the new year, and we will be giving our own Game of the Year awards and things like that, as we always do here on the podcast. Coach is going to talk about Tears of the Kingdom, as that's his Game of the Year. Or maybe it's Breath of the Wild. So so look forward to that here in a couple weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, and I hope you all have a very happy holiday season and Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Frameskip. Don't forget you can find the show on social media at FrameSkipPod. That's on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also follow us each individually on Twitter. George is at Shortbox Summary, Seth is at Seth the 90s Kid, and I, Austin Eller, am at Austin J. Eller on Twitter. If you've got a question, comment, or topic you'd like to hear discussed on the next episode of Frameskip, you can do so by submitting it to us on social media. Email us at frameskippodcast@gmail.com or visit bit.ly/frameskipq. That's bit.ly/frameskipq. The show is typically live on YouTube every week, either on Tuesday or Wednesday. You can find our YouTube channel at bit.ly/frameskiplive. Don't forget to subscribe and be notified when we do go live, typically at about 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time.